We have an upcoming lunar eclipse. I'm going to look at Trump's chart. Big impact on his relationships, perhaps on his presidency. Get ready, haters. You're not going to like it. I'm dishing on the president and the upcoming eclipses. So I'm making this video about the upcoming eclipse and the implications that it might have for the President of the United States, Donald Trump. I haven't done an update on that in a while, and I'm doing it now because in his natal chart, he is a very eclipse-like guy. He was born on a lunar eclipse, at its most intense and maximum. Last year, the eclipses that happened in February, right around those eclipses, in fact, at that time was when Michael Flynn first had to resign, and all of this stuff blew up around all of his legal trouble. It started on the eclipse cycle, or during the eclipse cycle in 2017. By the way, I said it would also. This is a prediction that I got correct last year. I said it as soon as that dossier was... as soon as it was leaked that they had a dossier that had all of these things on Trump, I said, uh-oh, this is real stuff. This ain't going away, and look for things to blow up around the time of the eclipse, and that is what happened. Around the eclipses last year, that's when Michael Flynn was let go of, and that was the first domino that set into effect all this stuff that we're looking at now, including him firing Comey and then having to be investigated. Most of it has been self-created. He's bungled everything, not the least of which is going on TV and basically admitting that he obstructed justice, basically admitting that he fired Comey so he'd stop investigating him. Anyway, so I understand also this is a charged topic, and there are still people in this world who think it's just fake news and the media's after him and there's nothing to any of this. I'm not even talking about that, frankly. Whether you believe that or not is not, it's not extremely relevant. I'm just talking about timing of how this investigation could get worse for him right now and where things are at, and a few other things also, because regardless of what you think of all of that, the president is being investigated. It is going to be shown astrologically, and it's an important time right now, and it did start around last year's eclipses. So we can see, this is his chart. You can see he's got Saturn and Venus in his 12th house. When I did a chart analysis of him a couple years ago, I said this is why he's dishonest with his partners, why he cheats on partners, and he's been married 3 times. There are 2 reasons. First of all, Venus is the indicator of partners. It's the karaka of partners, and Saturn is his 7th house ruler because he's Leo. So both indicators of partner are in the 12th house of secrets, loss, letting go, losing money, to pay a lot of alimony. In his first marriage, I don't remember the second one, I think that was prenuptial, but loss, just very simply, loss of partner with either the 7th lord or Venus in the 12th house. It can show that constant loss of partners. He's got both indicators there. Saturn, 7th house lord, and Venus, the karaka, are both in the 12th house in his natal chart. I'm pointing this out because there's also an eclipse. Of course, this is the eclipse chart. The moon is going to be eclipsed on January 31st, right in that 12th house over both of those indicators. This is definitely a difficult time for his marriage, no question. We've just seen recently that these reports came out about him paying hush money to a porn star that he allegedly had an affair with for 7 years or something. I'm sure that's not true. I'm sure that's fake news. Yeah, right. Whether I believe it or not, I believe it. Okay. Anyway, this is not it's not even an open secret. He is on record of bragging about his exploits with women for years. His first marriage ended when he had an affair with this Marla Maples and then this and that, and we already have the, grab him by the tape when he was already married to Melania. There are so many examples of where he doesn't care that he's married, he goes after women. Simple. So whether you agree, whether you think that really happened or not, it happened. It happened. It's in the news, and it's a big thing. It would be a huge thing if he wasn't already so enmeshed in so many other scandals. But you can see this, again, whether you believe it or not, and again, try to stay focused. So if you're just saying that I'm a biased maniac, try to stay focused on the subject, because the subject is, whether you believe it or not, you see it in the news now. You see it as a part of his life. You see this as a narrative, and that's what I'm talking about with the astrology, just like what I'm going to talk about here in a bit, as well as it relates to the astrology. You see this coming out now. These problems with women, and again, we have Rahu going through his 12th house, Rahu going through his 12th house, which shows why he's been married 3 times, and why he cheats on partners, and is not honest with them, and is probably done a lot of things behind closed doors that would be considered abusive. I'm not going to make a prediction that I think the veracity and the truth of the PP tape is going to come out either. I don't know that, but it actually wouldn't surprise me if maybe there's even video of stuff like that or something, because it could be really, this could be very interesting, or a video or audio or something of him doing something really, especially sexually, and like evidence of it that actually comes out. I wouldn't be surprised. Whether it comes out, we may already, I mean, we have already to some extent seen it. I mean, unless you want to be naive, we already have reports that he's paid hush money to an adult film star, and these are credible. This is a credible story. Go look into it. She said it as much back before he was a candidate, that they had an affair. So anyway, besides that, that's not the point of this. I do want to talk about his relationship, though, and why, not just because of this, but also because we have this triple aspect. I just noticed this a few weeks ago. We have this triple aspect of planets onto both Gemini and Aquarius. Triple aspect meaning Saturn is aspecting, Mars is aspecting, and Jupiter is aspecting. All 3 of them are aspecting his 7th house, because he's a Leo ascendant, and they're all aspecting here, his 7th house. Of course, Saturn aspecting 3rd house, Mars aspecting 4th house, and Jupiter aspecting 5th house. So there's all this pressure on his 7th house, because Aquarius is the 7th house from here, as it is anyway right now. So we see these things really influencing his relationship right now, and the pressure on his relationship. This is one of the reasons I wanted to make this video, even more than the potential problem in the investigations and stuff, which is also certainly there. Because I saw in the news today, I'm recording this on the 24th of January in India, so it's like the 23rd in the US. And in the West, or no, now it's early in the morning on the 24th. So it's that she won't be going with him to Davos. He's going to a trip, and she's not going to go. I bet there are some major things happening behind the scenes. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he has been found out to be having an affair as well. This could be a big scandal that comes out in the next few weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out that he's been having an affair. This would not surprise me. In the book that just came out, the Fire and Fury book, the Michael whatever, or the author, I forgot his name, hinted and flat out stated that he was very close to actually printing that in the book, but he didn't have the, as he said, he didn't have the blue dress, he didn't have the smoking gun, so he didn't print it, but he's like 90% sure that he was in the White House all the time. People are speculating about who it is. I've thought for the entire time that I just suspected that it was with Hope Hicks, the young, nice-looking assistant. Others have speculated that it might be Nikki Haley. I don't know, who knows, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's having an affair and it comes out. Or even if it doesn't come out in public, you're seeing the problem in his relationship now. Lunar eclipse, regardless, over his 12th house lord and Venus right now, and his Saturn, Venus in the 12th. This is his nature, and it's getting eclipsed right now. Okay, this is the lunar eclipse. I wouldn't be surprised if by the time we have the solar eclipse here, I'm not going to say his marriage will be over or ended, at least maybe not publicly, but for all intents and purposes, maybe they'll just be completely separated, and they won't, and maybe Melania won't be living at the White House anymore or something like that. Because this is the lunar eclipse. The solar eclipse is still in his 6th house, which I'm going to get to right now, because we have a solar eclipse after that, which is in his 6th house. So again, you want to understand that the lunar eclipse has more to do with our personal life, our personal feelings, and our relations with others. The lunar eclipse is happening with all this relationship energy and his 12th house sneaky, deceptive relationship energy. That's where the lunar eclipse is, which affects us personally, our personal life, as far as our family life and whatnot. But then a couple weeks later, because again, this is an eclipse cycle, and I think it's February 15th, we have the solar eclipse in his 6th house. Oh boy. 6th house of enemies, of battles, struggles, and your enemies showing up. Now, again, I've noticed that his karmas tend to revolve more around the lunar eclipse and the lunar cycles, meaning full moons rather than new moons more. It's probably because he was born on a lunar eclipse. So the lunar eclipses tend to carry more disruption. Again, the lunar eclipse last year, right around that, if not right on the lunar eclipse, was when Michael Flynn resigned. If it wasn't the day, it was the day before, right after, right on those days. The lunar, not the solar. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see big things happen around the lunar eclipse. But again, this lunar eclipse is in contrast to the solar cycle, which is going through his 6th house. So you always want to look at where the sun is, because the sun is what's making the eclipse. Meaning the fact that the sun has joined the node, that is what brings about the eclipse. Well, let me also say this last thing. By the time we get to the solar eclipse, you're going to see what happens. You get to the solar eclipse, watch what happens. The sun is actually going to be in Aquarius by the time we get to the solar eclipse. Ketu is in his 6th house, but you see the sun goes into his 7th house by the time we have the solar eclipse, right? So when we have the solar eclipse on the 16th, actually, it's on the 16th. So it's this time, right? The 16th here in India, 7th, 15th in the other part of the world. This will, the sun will be in his 7th house and getting the aspect, this triple aspect. So again, this is why I'm saying there's a lot of pressure on his relationship right now. Could be, I don't know if it'll publicly be the end of the relationship, but I have a feeling that his cheating, embarrassing ways, at least embarrassing to his wife, have maybe hit the breaking point. Let's be honest, this is not Michelle and Barack Obama and this cuddly, loving relationship. You've never seen anything but token signs of affection. Even in his inauguration ball or whatever, when he was dancing, it was like very much token affection. Everyone has seen the famous slap his hand away kind of thing. Think of being her, and she's married to him, especially as being a notorious womanizer. She has to deal with and defend his, grab him by the statements and even the things he said before that, like he moved on her, tried to get this married woman into the sack. Now these allegations of paying off a stripper or adult film star is what she was. Anyway, so this eclipse is going to happen with the sun in his 7th house, but this eclipse cycle right now is all this sixth house energy, and we have and he's being investigated, and the investigation is closing in on him. It's getting closer and closer to him. Again, if you think it's all conspiracy and fake news and deep state trying to bring him down, that's fine. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying, regardless of what you think of all that, this is still what's happening in the man's life. And it could get him. We could see some major, major movement here in the next couple weeks, between now and the end of February. Since this, once this eclipse portal opens, which it's kind of opening now, as we get within, I start to say that the eclipse portal really opens before we have the first eclipse. Let me make this in days. As the moon gets closer to the first eclipse node, which is kind of where we're at right now, here's where I think the eclipse cycle really starts to open. I think it starts to open around right here, around the 25th, right around here, 26th, because now you see this moon here is on, this is Dashami, this is Shukla Dashami, the waxing 10th day. As it gets, we have this full moon and this first eclipse in the cycle on Shukla Purnima, right, on the waxing 15th day. So you see here now it's the waxing 10th day, so this is 5 days from the eclipse, which means sun, moon, and earth, sun and earth are like this, and the moon is like right, and the moon is like right here. Then, and then we get the eclipse, right? So if you were to put them in a straight line, take this thing here. So let's say this straight line, my selfie stick, is the eclipse axis. You have let's say this is the sun, right? And let's say this is the earth. Let's say this finger here is the earth. When you get to about the 10th lunar day, you have the moon say right here. So it's almost at the eclipse. Then 10th day, 11th day, 12th day, 13th, 14th, 15th. Then you have the eclipse right there. Then it goes like this. Then it comes around again. Then the next time when the moon is over here, you have the solar eclipse. So right now, where we're at, and as I said, once this gets to about right here, this is where we are now. We're on Ashwini right now, here. So now you have the moon about right here, right? You have the sun, let's say the earth is here, sun, moon, then the earth goes, I'm sorry, sun, earth, and then the moon is here right now. So as it gets closer, you see it's getting closer to that eclipse. So usually this plane is not in integrity. You'll have the sun here, and then the earth here, and then when you have the full moon, it's here, right? It's not lined up on that plane. That's why you have an eclipse. That's what the lunar node is. In that diagram, this represented the nodal axis. So we're getting into that eclipse axis right now, and this is why from again I say January 25th, 26th to say February 25th, 26th. This is going to be a crucial time. At the very least, I'm going to say his marriage is definitely not fun right now. Of course, he's got Rahu getting closer and closer to these planets. If you look by exact degree, Rahu is 20 degrees. And of course, his Venus is at 2 degrees, and his Saturn is just barely in Cancer in his 12th house. So this is a lot of pressure on his relationships anyway for the next year or so, as Rahu goes through his 12th house and over his 7th lord and the relationship Karaka. The other thing I wanted to mention, I almost forgot. This is important as well for him because he's in Jupiter Dasha now. You're like, well, what does Jupiter have to do with it? Jupiter, it's retrograded, the 2nd house. That's not the reason. The reason is because planets give the results of what they rule. And Jupiter is the ruler of Punarvasu. So this whole time, since he started his Jupiter Dasha, which was in fact right after the election, he's been in a cycle of, he's having a cycle of karma that's going to reveal his relationships with women and marriage and his basically his dishonesty with his partners, which, again, part of it is because this Saturn-Venus, it's not just in the 12th house, but it's also ruled by retrograde Jupiter in the 2nd. And it's in the 2nd house of speech, where, again, telling lies, not being honest. He's getting the karmas now of Jupiter retrograde in the 2nd house, which is his dishonest, rambling speech. Again, this is also what helped him make money and become wealthy. There are things about it, and again, if you just apply astrology in simplistic ways and say, well, but it's good, it made him a billionaire. Okay, if being a billionaire is good, if that's the only way we ever look at anything, then okay. But it also shows how he's lost a lot. He's been bankrupt, and he could be corrupt, and he could have gotten a lot of that money illegally. And he's got people turning on him because he's not honest, and he's not consistent. He's got a retrograde Jupiter in the 2nd house. Okay, if you know what that means, it means you're not necessarily very reliable through your words, right? Tend to distort. I'm the most honest person you've ever met. I'm the least racist person you've ever met. Like we're all idiots, right? Like lying over and over, making ridiculous distortions that just become normal after a while, somewhat. They become normal to some people. They've also made him the most unpopular president ever. Again, whether you agree with it or not, whether you think the 70% of the people that don't like him are wrong or not, whatever. But his behavior is what it is, and I'm not going to pretend that's not actually there. You can see it for your own eyes. Your eyes show you his actions, and he says things that aren't true constantly. He's not loyal. You see people turning on him. He's not diplomatic, and you see people turning on him. He could have, for example, when that book came out, he could have found a way to salvage a relationship with Steve Bannon in one way or another, but he didn't. He came out and just attacked Steve Bannon. They could have found a way to just kind of deny it and poo-poo the whole thing and say, he didn't give Steve Bannon any way out. He came out and just attacked him. Now Bannon has been interviewed by Mueller and everybody else. All these people are talking, and they're going to save their skin. They're not going to save him because he hasn't really engendered any loyalty. So the karmas of all this are what he's dealing with now. All this is the Jupiter retrograde. Again, Jupiter is the 5th lord. It's also the 8th lord. And it also rules his Saturn-Venus in the 12th, which is why I even brought up the Jupiter Dasha and the Saturn-Venus and the relationship indicators, because Jupiter is the ruler. It not only shows his misspeaking and his, if you want to just say flat out lying as it relates to business or anything else, and total exaggerations, but it's those things and how they undermine his relationships and his contracts with his partners as well, because Jupiter rules Saturn and Venus in the 12th. In fact, retrograde Jupiter rules Saturn and Venus in the 12th. And as you see, it's getting eclipsed. Again, here's the eclipse chart again. Here's the eclipse chart again. Here's his chart. Kaboom! Right in that Saturn-Venus in the 12th, getting eclipsed. Meanwhile, look at Sun, Ketu, grinding together in the 6th house of enemies who are coming after you. Does it look like he's being descended on by enemies right now? And his partners, his partner, his woman, his whatever, she ain't sticking with him right now. Again, as I also showed all of the pressure Saturn, Mars, Jupiter on his 7th house, because he's Leo Ascendant, his 7th house, and then by the time we even get to the eclipse of the Sun, you see the Sun moves into his 7th house as well. Boom, boom, boom. You see, they have the eclipse when Sun and Moon join. So here, this is, I have to go a few hours here now, and you'll see the Sun then joins the Moon, or the Moon then joins the Sun here in Aquarius, and it's close to Ketu, and we have that solar eclipse. Winds up being in his 7th house. Again, that's also other people. It's not just relationship partners either. We also see that it's getting that aspect from Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, but it's all other people. And again, look at all of the other people in his life. It's everybody he's surrounded with. The people that you're surrounded with are basically your seventh house. The most intimate of those are, of course, your romantic partners. But look at the people he surrounded himself with now. How loyal are they to him? Anybody got his back? Doesn't seem like it. All these people that have been testifying and having to get lawyers because he's probably broken the law. He could be a very hardcore criminal, and that could include his family members. There's a lot of reports about Jared Kushner even maybe throwing him under the bus. Jared Kushner's not going to go to jail to save Donald Trump. Nobody is. If they think they're going to get prosecuted, they are going to sell him down the river. Again, I said this I said this last year when that thing came out, but a lot of this is coming to a head right now, and we can see it. So let's see what happens. The other thing is getting a little long, but he could try to preempt all of this, and of course, fire Mueller. Could happen. That could be disastrous. That would be disastrous. It might even be something that he might do soon. He might try to do it to avoid these enemies closing in on him and roll the dice, because I'll hear some of the personal opinion here. I think he's guilty as hell of probably the money laundering and all that stuff that Steve Bannon actually said. It's just too obvious. All of the deals, the real estate deals, Wilbur Ross, the head of the Cyprus Bank, Tillerson, who was an Exxon shill for Russia, all this, it's just everything points to the fact that he was involved with Russian oligarchs for years. He never thought he was going to become president. Now he is, and all of this stuff is sitting there. And if he's guilty, which, by the way, let's also realize he's acting like he's guilty, and he's acted like he's guilty from the beginning. He's done nothing but obstruct. He's tried to fire everybody involved with it. He's tried to get rid of this thing from day one. If he was innocent, he would not. At least if he was not so good, he is acting so guilty. So let's say that he is guilty, even of 1/10 of what could be possible. What does he have to lose but to fire the special prosecutor? What does he have to lose at that point? This is why he could do it. And he could have people, he may very well have people, will come out and defend him just because they want to protect the Republican brand. I think that will happen. I actually think it's extremely likely that he will try to fire Mueller. Mainly because I think he's guilty. I think it's almost obvious he's guilty, and what does he have to lose at that point? Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. It's hard to predict this stuff. No one knows, especially with all this 12th house energy and eclipses, but I don't think he's going to just say, okay, even though I'm guilty, I'm just going to get prosecuted. I don't think he's going to do that. I think he's going to say, all right, I'm guilty, so if I just sit here and do nothing, I'm definitely going down. So if I fire him, at least maybe something will happen. Maybe something different will happen. And again, if that happens, this is the danger. He doesn't have any sense of nobility for the country. It would put the country through a hell. The other thing is he could step down. They could make a deal. This is the other thing that is hopefully going to happen. This is what I think, because I think he's guilty. I think they know he's guilty. He knows he's guilty, and I think these things are being talked about behind the scenes, where there's some kind of thing worked out where he, goes away one day, and they evoke maybe the 25th Amendment. They come to him and say, here's what we got. You're going to spend, you and your son and your son-in-law and this one and that one are going to be in jail for a long time. And you're going to put the country through hell if you don't step down. If you step down, here's what we can do. And you could just disappear and we'll install the next regime. And he can resign. And that would at least be a better alternative than what could happen. So I didn't plan on going on this little riff, but these are the things that could certainly happen with this eclipse, especially going through his 6th and 12th house. 6th and 12th houses are all about loss. If not now, I think by the time, again, it could happen now because you see enemies and people around him abandoning him, or at least a very difficult time for him in all of his relations. But when we go into next year, and when we run this months from now, you'll see when the sun comes around here, we're going to have the next eclipse. We'll have the next eclipse cycle at this time. In fact, yeah, we have 2 eclipses over the summer where sun and moon. This is an eclipse day. I think it's July 13th and August 11th. We have these other solar eclipses back then, or I'm sorry, at that time. And of course, they're preceded by lunar eclipses as well. So in the summer, and again, you see where these are falling. Look at Rahu here at 11. The sun is in Gemini. Look, this is where the eclipses are falling in the summer. Right at this point, again, Rahu is at 11, the sun is at 26, and then the month later, the next month, sun and moon right at the end of Cancer, but still right in the same sign. Mercury is retrograde. This is the one in August. So I was going to say, if he lasts that long, when we get around to this one, we're going to have it out again. This is going to be another big, again, his relationship is really messed up right now. And I really wouldn't be surprised if Melania, again, it would be remarkable to say she's like going to divorce him. Who knows? But it might come out, especially this whole thing about having an affair in the White House. That could be what brings him down also. So, interesting stuff.